Welcome to the Story Lab. I hope you enjoy this story. Let's begin. The gentle hum of my laptop filled the otherwise quiet living room as I pored over lines of code. Sunlight streamed through the bay window, casting a warm glow across the hardwood floor. For once, the house was peaceful. No squealing children, no cartoons blaring from the TV, no endless requests for snacks or help with homework. I glanced at my watch. Marlena had taken our 5 kids to the park about an hour ago. With any luck, I'd have another hour or two of uninterrupted work time before chaos descended once more. I loved my family fiercely, but these rare moments of solitude were precious. A sudden, aggressive pounding on the front door shattered my concentration. I jerked upright, nearly knocking over my coffee mug. Who could that be? We weren't expecting any packages, and our neighbors usually called before dropping by. The pounding came again, more insistent this time. "Coming," I called out, saving my work and closing my laptop. As I approached the door, an uneasy feeling settled in the pit of my stomach. Something about this didn't feel right. I opened the door to find a stranger on our front porch. He was about my age, with wild, unkempt hair and clothes that looked like he'd slept in them. But it was his eyes that caught my attention, piercing and intense, almost feverish in their determination. "Can I help you?" I asked, keeping one hand on the doorframe. The man's gaze bore into me. "Are you Thaddeus Callahan?" I nodded slowly. "That's me. And you are?" "Axel Reardon," he replied, his voice tight with barely contained emotion. "I need to see my kids." I blinked, sure I'd misheard him. "I'm sorry, what?" "There must be some mistake. My children are." "Not yours," Axel cut me off, taking a step forward. Instinctively, I tried to close the door, but he wedged his foot in the gap. "You don't understand. I'm their real father. I have proof." My heart began to race. "Sir, I think you need to leave. Now, before I call the police." Axel's expression softened slightly, a hint of desperation creeping into his voice. "Please, just hear me out. I know this is a shock, but I can explain everything." I hesitated, torn between slamming the door in this clearly unhinged man's face and hearing what he had to say. Curiosity and a growing sense of dread won out. "You have 2 minutes," I said firmly. "Then you leave, or I'm calling the cops." Axel nodded gratefully and pulled a thick manila folder from his battered messenger bag. "It's all in here," he said, thrusting the folder towards me. "Years of paternity tests. DNA doesn't lie, man." With trembling hands, I took the folder and began to flip through its contents. Page after page of official-looking documents swam before my eyes. Lab reports, genetic profiles, and cold, hard statistics that threatened to tear my world apart. This can't be right," I muttered, struggling to process what I was seeing. "There has to be some mistake." Axel shook his head, a mix of sympathy and determination in his eyes. "I wish there was. Believe me, I didn't want it to happen this way. But Marlena and we've been together for years." The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. "What are you talking about?" "She told me she was going to leave you," Axel continued, his words cutting through me like knives. "But she never did. I'm tired of waiting. Those are my kids, and I want to be in their lives." I gripped the doorframe for support, my mind reeling. "Get out," I managed to choke out. "Just get out. Now." Axel took a step back, his expression hardening. "I'll be back with lawyers, Thaddeus. You can't keep me from my children forever." As he turned and walked away, I slammed the door shut and leaned against it, my legs threatening to give out beneath me. The folder of damning evidence lay scattered on the floor, a ticking time bomb that had just detonated in the heart of my family. How could this be happening? How could Marlena, my wife of 15 years, the mother of our children, have betrayed me so completely? And worse yet, how many of our kids were actually mine? I stumbled to the kitchen, yanking open a drawer and fumbling for the bottle of whiskey I kept hidden there for emergencies. If this didn't qualify, nothing did. As I poured a generous measure with shaking hands, one thought echoed through my mind. I had to know the truth. The amber liquid burned as it slid down my throat, but it did little to numb the pain or quiet the storm of questions raging in my mind. I sank into a kitchen chair, staring blankly at the scattered papers on the floor. "Pull yourself together, Thad," I muttered. I needed to think clearly, to approach this rationally. But how could anyone be rational when their entire life was crumbling around them? I forced myself to take deep breaths, trying to slow my racing heart. Once I felt marginally more in control, I gathered up the documents and spread them across the kitchen table. As I pored over the pages, the full weight of Axel's bombshell began to sink in. There were paternity tests for all 5 of our children: Emma, our 12-year-old, the 10-year-old twins, Liam and Lucas, 7-year-old Sophia, and our youngest, 4-year-old Olivia. Each test told the same devastating story. Axel Reardon was their biological father. How? I whispered, my voice cracking. How could she do this? The sound of a car pulling into the driveway snapped me out of my daze. Marlena and the kids were home. Panic surged through me. I wasn't ready to face her, not yet. Not until I had more answers. Hastily, I shoved the papers back into the folder and stashed it in my home office. I splashed some cold water on my face, trying to erase any signs of distress. As I heard the front door open and the familiar chaos of our family spill into the house, I steeled myself for the performance of a lifetime. "Daddy!" Olivia's high-pitched squeal pierced the air as she barreled towards me, arms outstretched. I scooped her up, burying my face in her soft curls to hide the tears threatening to spill over. "Hey, pumpkin," I managed, my voice only slightly strained. "Did you have fun at the park?" The other kids swarmed around me, each clamoring for attention. I went through the motions, ruffling hair and listening to excited chatter about swings and slides and a very important grasshopper sighting. But it all felt hollow, tainted by the knowledge that these children I loved so fiercely might not be mine at all. Marlena appeared in the doorway, a diaper bag slung over one shoulder. "Hey, Han," she said with a smile that once would have made my heart skip a beat. Now, it only filled me with a sickening mixture of love and betrayal. "Everything okay? You look a little pale." I forced a smile. "Just a bit of a headache." "How was the park?" As Marlena launched into a recap of their afternoon, I studied her face. How many times had she lied to me? How long had this deception been going on? The woman I thought I knew better than anyone in the world now seemed like a stranger. "Thad, are you sure you're all right?" Marlena's concerned voice cut through my thoughts. "You seem distracted." I blinked, realizing I'd completely zoned out. "Sorry, yeah. This headache's really throwing me off. I think I'm going to lie down for a bit, if that's okay?" Marlena nodded, reaching out to squeeze my arm. The touch I once found comforting now made my skin crawl. "Of course. I'll keep the kids occupied. Get some rest." I retreated to our bedroom, closing the door behind me. Instead of lying down, I began to pace, my mind racing. I needed proof beyond Axel's documents. I needed to understand how deep this betrayal went. As I moved restlessly around the room, my gaze fell on Marlena's vanity. There was a small drawer on the side that always remained locked. I'd never thought much of it before, assuming it held jewelry or other valuables. But now, my hands shook as I retrieved the small toolkit I kept in my nightstand. It took only moments to pick the simple lock. Inside the drawer, nestled among crumpled receipts and old concert tickets, was a burner phone. My breath caught in my throat as I powered it on. There were dozens of messages, all from a contact simply labeled A. With each text I read, my world shattered a little more. "Miss you already. Can't wait for our next work trip. The kids were amazing today. Wish I could tuck them in every night. When are you going to leave him? We can't keep living like this." Marlena's replies were equally damning. "Soon, I promise. Just need to figure out the finances. I love you. We'll be a real family soon." That suspects nothing. He's so wrapped up in his work, it's almost too easy. I felt physically ill as I scrolled through years of secret exchanges. It wasn't just the affair that horrified me. It was the calculated nature of it all. Marlena had been using me for financial stability while maintaining her relationship with Axel. Everything I thought I knew about our life together was a lie. A soft knock at the door made me jump. I quickly replaced the phone and relocked the drawer. "Thad." Marlena's voice came through the door. "Dinner's almost ready. Are you feeling any better? I took a deep breath, steeling myself. Yeah, I called back, amazed at how steady my voice sounded. I'll be right out. As I walked back into our home full of photos of our life together, surrounded by the children I'd raised and loved, one thought consumed me. I had to know the truth about all 5 of my children. Were any of them actually mine? The next week passed in a blur of forced normalcy and secret investigations. By day, I went through the motions of our family routine, dropping the kids at school, going to work, helping with homework, and sharing meals. But every moment felt like a performance, with Marlena as my unknowing co-star in this twisted charade. At night, while the house slept, I delved deeper into the web of lies that had ensnared our family. I combed through years of bank statements, finding a pattern of unexplained withdrawals and suspicious transactions. I discovered hidden email accounts filled with passionate exchanges between Marlena and Axel. Each new piece of evidence was another knife in my heart. But the most devastating revelation came when I finally worked up the courage to have DNA tests done on all 5 children. I told Marlena it was for a medical study, and she agreed without hesitation. The irony of her easy compliance made me want to scream. As I sat in my car outside the lab, clutching the envelope with the test results, I found myself frozen. Did I really want to know? Could I handle the truth? My phone buzzed with a text from Marlena. Don't forget, Emma has soccer practice at 4. Can you pick her up? Emma, our firstborn, the little girl who had made me a father. I remembered the first time I held her, marveling at her tiny fingers and the wisp of blonde hair on her head. I'd promised then to always protect her, to be the best father I could be. With trembling hands, I tore open the envelope. The results hit me like a physical blow. Out of our 5 children, only 2, Sophia and Olivia, were biologically mine. The others, including Emma, were Axel's. I don't know how long I sat there, tears streaming down my face. The pain was indescribable, a mix of grief for the family I thought I had and fierce, protective love for the children who had no idea their world was about to be turned upside down. By the time I picked Emma up from soccer practice, I had managed to compose myself. As she chattered away about her day, I studied her face, searching for signs of Axel. How had I never noticed before? The shape of her eyes, the curve of her smile, they were all his. Dad, are you listening? Emma's voice cut through my thoughts. I forced a smile. Sorry, sweetheart. Just thinking about work stuff. How about we stop for ice cream on the way home? Emma's face lit up. Really? Awesome. As we sat in the ice cream parlor, Emma devouring her double scoop of Rocky Road, I made a decision. These children, all of them, were mine in every way that mattered. I had loved them, raised them, been there for every skinned knee and nightmare and triumph. Biology be damned, I was their father. But Marlena, the anger that had been simmering beneath my grief began to boil over. She had robbed me of so much, stolen years of my life, tainted every memory. She needed to pay. That night, after the kids were in bed, I made a call to Vivian Blackwood, the best divorce attorney in Atlanta. Her reputation for ruthlessness was exactly what I needed. Mr. Callahan, Vivian's crisp voice came through the phone. I understand you're in a difficult situation. Can you tell me more? I took a deep breath. My wife has been having an affair for years. 5 kids, only 2 are biologically mine. I want a divorce, and I want full custody. There was a pause on the other end. When Vivian spoke again, her tone was softer, but no less determined. I see. Mr. Callahan, I won't sugarcoat this, it's going to be a tough battle. But if you're willing to fight, I'll be in your corner every step of the way. I'm ready, I said, surprised by the steel in my own voice. Whatever it takes. As I hung up, I heard Marlena's footsteps in the hallway. For a moment, I was tempted to confront her then and there, to unleash all the pain and anger that had been building. But no, this needed to be handled carefully, strategically. I slipped into bed beside her, my skin crawling at her nearness. Marlena rolled over, draping an arm across my chest. Everything okay, honey? You've seemed distant lately. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to sound normal. Just stressed about work. Big project coming up. Poor baby, Marlena murmured, snuggling closer. Want me to help you relax? It took every ounce of self-control not to recoil from her touch. Not tonight, I managed. Early meeting tomorrow. I should get some sleep. As Marlena drifted off beside me, I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing. The life I had known was over. But from the ashes of this betrayal, I would build something new. For my children, for all of my children, I would fight. And I would win. The cool leather of Vivian Blackwood's office chair creaked as I leaned forward, my elbows resting on her polished mahogany desk. A week had passed since my world imploded, and I'd spent every waking moment oscillating between numbness and rage. Vivian's piercing gaze met mine. Mr. Callahan, I've reviewed the evidence you've gathered. It's substantial, but we need to tread carefully. Georgia's divorce laws can be tricky. I nodded, my jaw clenched. Just tell me what I need to do. She opened a file on her desk. First, let's discuss the legal landscape. Georgia is a no-fault divorce state, which means that Marlena's affair doesn't automatically give me the upper hand, I finished. Vivian raised an eyebrow. You've done your homework. I haven't slept much this week. She nodded sympathetically. While infidelity isn't grounds for divorce here, it can still impact property division and alimony. More importantly, it gives us leverage in custody negotiations. I leaned back. And the paternity issue? Complicated, Vivian admitted. Legally, you're presumed to be the father of all 5 children since you were married when they were born. But if you choose to challenge paternity, I don't, I said firmly. They're my kids, biology be damned. A ghost of a smile crossed Vivian's face. That's admirable, Mr. Callahan, and it strengthens our position. Your consistent presence as their father will weigh heavily in a custody battle. I took a deep breath. So what's our next move? Vivian leaned forward. We build our case methodically. Document everything. Any interactions with Marlena, any evidence of her affair or neglect of the children. We need to paint a clear picture for the judge. And Axel? I asked, my voice hardening. We'll deal with him too. His attempt to insert himself into your family life won't be viewed favorably by the court. I nodded, then hesitated. There's something else, Vivian. I don't just want a divorce. I want them to pay for what they've done. Vivian's eyes narrowed. Revenge is a dangerous game, Mr. Callahan. It can backfire spectacularly in court. I'm not talking about anything illegal, I assured her. But they've stolen years of my life, tainted every memory. There has to be a way to make them face consequences. Vivian was quiet for a moment, then spoke carefully. The best revenge is often living well, Mr. Callahan. Focus on securing your future and your children's future. That said, if we play this right, we can ensure Marlena and Axel face the natural consequences of their actions. I leaned forward, intrigued. I'm listening. We'll use their own actions against them, Vivian explained. Their deception, their plans to take the children from you, it all paints a picture of 2 unfit parents. Our goal is to secure your position as the stable, loving father while exposing their true natures. A plan began to form in my mind. And if we could get them to reveal those true natures on record? Vivian's eyebrow arched. What did you have in mind? I outlined my idea, watching Vivian's expression shift from skepticism to grudging admiration. It's risky, she warned, but if it works, it'll give us everything we need, I finished. Vivian nodded slowly. All right, Mr. Callahan, let's plan this carefully. Remember, one wrong move could jeopardize everything. As we dove into the details, a grim determination settled over me. Marlena and Axel had no idea what was coming. They thought they'd played me for a fool all these years. Now it was my turn to show them just how wrong they were. The next few days were an exercise in self-control. I went through the motions of our family life, all while secretly setting my plan in motion. Every smile from Marlena, every casual touch, made my skin crawl. But I forced myself to play the role of the oblivious husband. It was during dinner on Thursday that I made my move. I've got some news, I announced, plastering on a smile. The company needs me to go to Chicago for a big client meeting. I'll be gone all weekend. Marlena looked up from helping Olivia cut her chicken. This weekend? That's short notice. I shrugged, taking a sip of water. You know how it is. Big opportunity, can't pass it up. When do you leave? Marlena asked, a hint of something I couldn't quite place in her voice. First thing tomorrow morning, I replied. I should be back Sunday evening. Later that night, as Marlena slept beside me, I carefully extracted her phone from the nightstand. My hands shook slightly as I unlocked it using the passcode I discovered during my investigation. There, in her messages, was exactly what I'd been waiting for. To Axel, Thad's out of town this weekend. Come over Saturday afternoon. We need to talk. I allowed myself a grim smile as I replaced the phone. The trap was set. The next morning, I made a show of packing my suitcase and kissing the kids goodbye. Marlena saw me off with a distracted peck on the cheek, her mind clearly elsewhere. Instead of heading to the airport, I drove to a nearby hotel. There, I met with the private investigator Vivian had recommended. Everything's set up, Mr. Callahan, the PI assured me, handing over a laptop. We've got eyes and ears throughout the house. Video and audio will stream directly to this computer. I nodded, my mouth dry. And it's all legal? 100%, he confirmed. You own the property, and Georgia is a one-party consent state for recordings. We're in the clear. As Saturday afternoon approached, I sat in my hotel room, staring at the laptop screen. Part of me still couldn't believe I was doing this, watching my own home like some twisted voyeur. But I needed proof, irrefutable evidence of Marlena and Axel's deception. At precisely 2:07 p.m., Axel's beat-up truck pulled into our driveway. I watched as Marlena greeted him at the door, ushering him inside with a familiarity that made my stomach churn. They settled in the living room, Marlena perched on the edge of the sofa while Axel paced. We need to talk about what happened last week, Marlena began. I know. I screwed up, going to confront Thad like that. I couldn't take it anymore, Lena. You think I like this situation? Marlena snapped. Do you have any idea how hard it is, pretending every day? Then why are we still pretending? Axel demanded. You said you'd leave him. You've been saying that for years. Marlena sighed, her shoulders slumping. It's complicated, Axel. The kids are mine. Axel interrupted. Well, most of them. We should be raising them together, Lena, as a real family. I watched as Marlena stood, moving to place a hand on Axel's arm. I know, baby. And we will be. I just need a little more time to get things in order. If we do this right, we can take the kids and leave Thad with nothing. Axel pulled her close. You promise? I promise, Marlena murmured. Just a little longer, and we'll have everything we've dreamed of. As they sealed their pact with a kiss, I closed the laptop, unable to watch anymore. My hands shook as I picked up my phone to call Vivian. Did you get what we need? She asked without preamble. Every damning word, I confirmed, my voice hollow. Good, Vivian said firmly. Now comes the hard part. Are you ready? I took a deep breath, steeling myself. Let's end this. Sunday evening arrived, and I pulled into our driveway right on schedule. The weight of the evidence on my phone felt like a ticking time bomb in my pocket. As I walked through the front door, I heard Marlena's voice from the kitchen. Kids, Dad's home. A stampede of little feet thundered down the stairs as our children mobbed me with hugs and excited chatter. For a moment, I allowed myself to bask in their love, pushing aside the pain and anger that had been my constant companions. Did you bring us presents? Liam asked eagerly. I forced a laugh. Sorry, buddy. It was a work trip, remember? But how about we all go out for ice cream after dinner? A chorus of cheers erupted, and I caught Marlena's eye over their heads. She smiled, but I could see the tension in her posture. How was your trip? She asked as the kids dispersed. I shrugged, hanging up my coat. Productive. How was your weekend? Oh, the usual, Marlena replied vaguely. The kids missed you. Just the kids? I couldn't help but ask. Marlena's smile faltered for just a moment. Of course I missed you too, honey. Dinner was a surreal affair. I went through the motions, asking the kids about their weekend activities, all while my mind raced with what I was about to do. As we finished our meal, I turned to the children. Hey guys, why don't you go play in the basement for a bit? Mom and I need to talk about some boring grown-up stuff. Once they were safely out of earshot, I turned to Marlena. We need to talk. She began clearing the table, her movements a little too brisk. What about? About your weekend plans, I said quietly. The ones you made with Axel. Marlena froze, a plate suspended halfway to the sink. What are you talking about? I pulled out my phone, queuing up the video. I think it's time we stopped pretending, don't you? As the damning conversation played out, Marlena's face drained of color. When it finished, she gripped the edge of the counter, her knuckles white. How did you? She began. Does it matter? I cut her off. What matters is that I know everything, Marlena. The affair, the lies, your plans to take my children. Marlena's shock quickly morphed into anger. Your children? That's rich, Thad. How long have you known they're not even yours? Biology doesn't make a father, I shot back. I've loved them, raised them, been there for every moment of their lives. Can Axel say the same? Don't you dare judge me, Marlena hissed. You have no idea. You're right, I interrupted. I have no idea how you could betray our family like this. How you could lie to me, to our children, for years. Marlena's eyes narrowed. What are you going to do? You can't prove anything? I held up my phone. I think this video says otherwise. Not to mention the DNA tests, the secret phone, the bank records. It's over, Marlena. You're bluffing, she said, but I could hear the uncertainty in her voice. I want a divorce, I stated flatly, and I'm fighting for full custody of the kids. Marlena let out a bitter laugh. Good luck with that. They're not even yours. I smiled grimly. We'll see about that. I've already spoken to a lawyer. You might want to do the same. As the reality of the situation sank in, Marlena's bravado crumbled. Thad, please. We can work this out. Think of the children. I am thinking of the children, I replied. That's why I'm doing this. They deserve better than a mother who would use them as pawns in her twisted game. Marlena opened her mouth to respond, but was cut off by a commotion from the front of the house. The door burst open, and Axel stormed in, his face a mask of rage. You son of a bitch, he roared, lunging at me. I sidestepped his charge, positioning myself between him and the basement door where our children were playing, blissfully unaware of the drama unfolding. Axel, stop! Marlena cried. He knows everything. Axel froze, his eyes darting between us. What do you mean, everything? I held up my phone again. Every sordid detail. Your affair, your plans, all of it. You've been spying on us? Axel sputtered. I've been protecting my family, I corrected. Something you two seem to have forgotten how to do. Axel's face contorted with fury. Those are my kids, Callahan. You can't keep them from me. Watch me, I growled. You gave up any right to them the moment you decided to destroy our family. Stop it, both of you. Marlena interjected. The children will hear. As if on cue, a small voice came from the basement stairs. Daddy? What's going on? We all turned to see Emma, our oldest, standing there with wide, frightened eyes. The sight of her innocent face, caught in the crossfire of adult betrayal, broke something inside me. Everything's okay, sweetheart, I managed, my voice surprisingly steady. Why don't you take your brothers and sisters and go up to your room? Mom and Dad need to talk with a friend. Emma hesitated, her gaze shifting between the three of us. Are you sure? I nodded, forcing a smile. I'm sure. Go on now. We'll be up soon. As Emma disappeared back down the stairs, I turned to face Marlena and Axel. The fury and desperation on their faces told me this was far from over. But in that moment, I knew with absolute certainty that I would do whatever it took to protect my children from the storm that was about to break over our family. I think it's time for you to leave, Axel, I said quietly. Marlena, we'll discuss the details of the divorce tomorrow. For now, I suggest you pack a bag. You won't be staying here tonight. You can't do this, Marlena protested weakly. I can and I am, I replied. It's time you both face the consequences of your actions. As Axel stormed out and Marlena retreated to pack her things, I sank into a kitchen chair, the weight of everything crashing down on me. The hardest part was yet to come. How would I explain this to the children? How could I protect them from the pain and upheaval that lay ahead? But as I heard their muffled voices from upstairs, A resolve settled over me. They were my children, all of them, and I would move heaven and earth to give them the stable, loving home they deserved. The courthouse loomed before me, its stone facade a silent witness to countless family dramas. Today, it would bear witness to mine. I straightened my tie, took a deep breath, and pushed through the heavy doors. Vivian met me in the lobby, her briefcase clutched tightly in one hand. "Ready for this, Thad?" I nodded, my mouth dry. "As I'll ever be." We made our way to the courtroom, the click of Vivian's heels echoing in the tense silence. As we entered, I saw Marlena and Axel huddled with their lawyer at the opposite table. Marlena glanced up, her eyes meeting mine for a brief moment before darting away. The bailiff's voice rang out. "All rise." The Honorable Judge Eleanor Hawkins presiding. As we took our seats, Judge Hawkins peered over her glasses at the assembled parties. "We're here today in the matter of Callahan versus Callahan. Let's begin with opening statements." Marlena's lawyer, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit, stood first. "Your Honor, my clients have been victims of Mr. Callahan's obsessive and controlling behavior. We'll prove that Marlena Callahan and Axel Reardon are the best choice for primary custody of these children." I clenched my fists under the table, willing myself to stay calm. Vivian squeezed my arm reassuringly before rising to speak. "Your Honor, we're here today because of a betrayal of monumental proportions. Mr. Callahan has been the victim of years of deception and paternity fraud. Despite this, he remains committed to the well-being of all 5 children he has raised as his own. We'll demonstrate that he is the only stable and consistent parental figure in their lives." As the proceedings unfolded, Marlena and Axel's lawyer tried to paint me as neglectful and work-obsessed. "Mr. Callahan, isn't it true that you frequently work late, leaving the childcare to your wife?" he asked during cross-examination. I leaned into the microphone. "I work hard to provide for my family, yes, but I've never missed a school play, a soccer game, or a parent-teacher conference. I'm there for my children, always." "Your children," he pressed. "But aren't they biologically Mr. Riordan's?" Before I could answer, Vivian objected. "Your Honor, my client's commitment to these children is not determined by biology." "Sustained," Judge Hawkins ruled. "Move on, counselor." When it was our turn, Vivian methodically presented the evidence we'd gathered. The secret phone, the bank records, the damning video of Marlena and Axel plotting to take the children. With each revelation, I watched Marlena sink lower in her seat. "And now, Your Honor," Vivian said, "we'd like to present the results of DNA tests performed on all 5 children." A ripple of tension ran through the courtroom. Marlena's head snapped up, her eyes wide with fear. Vivian handed the results to the judge. "As you can see, Your Honor, 2 of the 5 children are biologically Mr. Callahan's." Gasps echoed through the courtroom. Judge Hawkins frowned as she reviewed the documents. "Mr. Callahan," she said, looking directly at me, "given this information, are you still seeking custody of all 5 children?" I stood, my voice steady. "Absolutely, Your Honor. They're all my children, regardless of biology. I've been their father in every way that matters since the day they were born." Judge Hawkins nodded, her expression unreadable. "Very well. We'll take a brief recess while I review all the evidence presented. Court will reconvene in 1 hour." As we filed out of the courtroom, Marlena approached me, her lawyer hovering nervously nearby. "Thad, please," she pleaded. "Can't we work something out? For the kids' sake?" I looked at her, this woman I'd loved for so long, now a stranger. "You should have thought about the kids before you decided to destroy our family." Axel stepped forward, his face flushed with anger. "You self-righteous bastard. You can't keep my children from me." I turned to face him. "I'm not keeping them from anyone, Axel. I'm fighting to give them the stable home they deserve. Something you and Marlena seem incapable of providing." Before the situation could escalate further, Vivian stepped between us. "That's enough. Thad, let's get some air." An hour later, we reassembled in the courtroom. Judge Hawkins cleared her throat, silencing the murmurs. "After careful consideration of all evidence presented, I'm ready to render my decision." She paused, her gaze sweeping over all of us. The actions of Mrs. Callahan and Mr. Reardon display a shocking disregard for the well-being of these children. Their deception and conspiracy to separate the children from the only father they've known is deeply troubling. Marlena let out a choked sob. Axel's face had turned ashen. Therefore, Judge Hawkins continued, I'm granting full custody of all 5 children to Thaddeus Callahan. Mrs. Callahan and Mr. Reardon will have supervised visitation rights to be reviewed in 6 months. Relief washed over me, so powerful I nearly collapsed. Vivian steadied me with a hand on my shoulder, a rare smile breaking through her professional demeanor. As we left the courtroom, I caught a glimpse of Marlena and Axel, their world crumbling around them. Despite everything, a part of me ached for them, but a larger part knew this was justice not just for me, but for my children. The weeks following the trial were a whirlwind of change and adjustment. The kids, still reeling from the divorce, now had to adapt to life without their mother's daily presence. It broke my heart to see their confusion and pain, but I was determined to provide the stability they desperately needed. One crisp autumn morning, as I was preparing breakfast, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was Axel. Need to talk. Meet me at Piedmont Park at noon. I hesitated, then replied, Fine. By the lake. After arranging for my parents to watch the kids, I drove to the park, my stomach churning with anxiety. I found Axel sitting on a bench, staring out at the water. He looked terrible, his clothes rumpled, dark circles under his eyes. Thanks for coming, he said as I sat down, keeping a careful distance between us. What do you want, Axel? Everything's falling apart, Thad. Meredith left me when she found out about the affair. Took our kids with her. I lost my job, the scandal, you know? I remained silent, unsure how to respond. Axel continued, his voice cracking. I know I've got no right to ask, but the kids, our kids, I need to see them. I sighed, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on me. Axel, you heard the judge. Supervised visitation, reviewed in 6 months. I can't wait that long, he exploded, then immediately deflated. I'm sorry. I miss them. Despite everything, I felt a flicker of sympathy. Look, I get it. But you need to understand. Those kids are my whole world. I'm not going to do anything to jeopardize their well-being or my custody. Axel nodded, defeated. I understand. I don't know how to move forward from here. I stood, ready to leave, but paused. Get help, Axel. Sort yourself out. Be the kind of father those kids deserve. That's the best thing you can do right now. As I walked away, I heard Axel call out, Thad, thank you for taking care of them, for being the father I couldn't be. I nodded without turning back, my emotions too complex to voice. Later that week, I received a call from Vivian. Thad, I've got some news about Marlena. What is it? Vivian's voice was grim. She's struggling. Lost her apartment, can't hold down a job. She's asking if you'll consider allowing her more time with the kids. I closed my eyes, conflicting emotions warring within me. What do you think I should do? Legally, you're under no obligation, Vivian replied. But, speaking as someone who's been through a bitter divorce, sometimes compassion can go a long way. After a long pause, I made a decision. Set up a meeting. Neutral location, supervised. Let's see how it goes. The meeting was tense and tearful. Marlena, once so put together, looked worn and desperate. I know I have no right to ask for anything, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. But please, Thad, they're my children too. I need them. I leaned forward, my voice firm but not unkind. Marlena, I'm not going to keep you from the kids, but you need to understand their well-being comes first. Always. If you want to be part of their lives, you need to get yourself together. She nodded, wiping away tears. I will. I promise. I'll do whatever it takes. As painful as it was, I knew this was a necessary step in healing not just for Marlena, but for our children as well. 5 years passed, each day bringing new challenges and triumphs. The kids grew, their resilience constantly amazing me. And somewhere along the way, amid the chaos of single parenthood and healing, I found love again in the most unexpected place. Vivian and I sat on the back porch, watching the kids play in the yard. Her hand found mine, our wedding rings glinting in the late afternoon sun. "Penny for your thoughts?" she asked. I smiled, squeezing her hand. "Just thinking about how far we've come. How lucky I am." Our moment was interrupted by Emma, now a poised teenager, approaching with an envelope in her hand. "Dad, this came for you today." I recognized the handwriting immediately. "It's from your mom," I said softly. Emma nodded, her expression a mix of curiosity and apprehension. "Are you going to read it?" I patted the space next to me on the porch swing. "Why don't we read it together?" As Emma settled beside me, I opened the letter. Marlena's familiar script filled the page. "Dear Thad, I hope this letter finds you and the children well. I've spent years trying to find the right words to express how deeply sorry I am for the pain I caused our family. There's no excuse for my actions, and I know I can never fully make amends. I'm writing to you now because I've finally reached a place in my life where I feel I can be the mother our children deserve. I've been sober for 3 years, I've got a stable job, and I've been seeing a therapist regularly. I'm not asking to disrupt the life you've built for our children. I know you're an amazing father, and I'm grateful every day that they have you. But if you're willing, I'd like the chance to be part of their lives again in whatever capacity you deem appropriate. I understand if this isn't possible. I'll respect whatever decision you make. I just wanted you to know that I'm here, I'm better, and I'm ready to make amends if given the chance. Thank you for being the father our children needed when I couldn't be the mother they deserved. Marlena." I looked up to find Emma's eyes filled with tears. "What do you think, sweetie?" I asked gently. She took a shaky breath. "I don't know, Dad. Part of me wants to see her, but another part is still so angry." I pulled her close. "That's okay. You're allowed to feel both those things. We don't have to decide anything right now." Vivian spoke up. "Why don't we talk about this as a family? Let everyone share their feelings?" I nodded, grateful once again for her wisdom and support. That evening, we gathered in the living room for a family meeting. The younger kids were initially confused, but as we explained the situation, a range of emotions played across their faces. "She left us," Liam said, his voice hard. "Why should we give her another chance?" Sophia, always the peacemaker, countered softly. "But people can change, right? Maybe she's really sorry." We talked for hours, each child expressing their fears, anger, and hopes. By the end, we'd reached a tentative decision to allow Marlena back into their lives slowly and carefully. As I tucked Olivia into bed that night, she looked up at me with wide eyes. "Daddy, are you sad about Mommy coming back?" I smoothed her hair back, my heart swelling with love. "No, sweetheart. I'm happy that you kids might have a chance to know your mom, and I'm proud of all of us for being brave enough to try." Later, as Vivian and I prepared for bed, she wrapped her arms around me. "You're an incredible man, Thad Callahan. Those kids are lucky to have you." I held her close, overwhelmed with gratitude. We're all lucky to have each other. The next day dawned bright and clear, perfect weather for the backyard barbecue we'd planned. As I fired up the grill, I watched my blended family spread out across the yard. The kids were playing a chaotic game of tag, their laughter filling the air. Vivian chatted with my parents, who had become like second parents to her. Standing there, surrounded by love and joy, I reflected on the journey that had brought us to this moment. The betrayal that had nearly broken me had instead forged me into a stronger, more compassionate person. I had refused to be a victim, instead becoming an advocate for others facing similar challenges. As I called everyone to the table, a sense of peace washed over me. We had weathered the storm, emerging battered but unbroken. And whatever challenges lay ahead, I knew we would face them together as a family. The story of Thad Callahan, once defined by betrayal, had become a testament to resilience, forgiveness, and the enduring power of love. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your precious time. If you enjoyed this story, then please make sure you subscribe to this channel. That would help me a lot. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.